So what I want to look at now is G1, or sometimes known as G01 or G01. Now you'll notice I don't use these leading zeros, I just put G1 because there is no point. It's just a waste of memory and a waste of space. And you're probably on modern computers where memory is not at a premium. It doesn't matter, you can use as much memory as you like, nobody cares. But on these Fanuc controls and these older controls particularly, they're very, very short of memory. So you can't just just waste as much space as you want. You need to be aware of it. And one good way of saving space is to take out all these silly leading zeros. There are some very, very old antiquated controls that maybe won't run without it. But if you come across one, let me know, because I haven't seen one for years. So generally speaking, you can just write G1. You don't need to write G01 or G01. But just remember that if you see it, don't get confused. So G1 means feed in a straight line. Now this really is point to point. So it's just like you dragged a piece of string from one point to the other. And obviously if you're telling something to feed, it needs a feed rate. So this F that you can see here is the feed rate. It's F for feed rate. And the feed rates go from sort of, sort of 0.1 of a millimetre a minute, right up to sort of the maximum feed rate of your machine, which can be as much as 9,000 millimetres a minute. Obviously, feeding downwards, I'm going to use a slower feed. You can change the feed at any time, but once it's in there, it stays in and it remembers it. You need one, the first time you use a G1, 2 or 3, you must put a feed rate, because if you've switched the machine off, it'll come up and say no feed rate, because it's just remembering what you had from your last program. If I go to my check screen, I can see my position, and you should be able to see there that I'm sat at Z3. Yeah, I've took that coolant off because it's a bit off-putting. So the first thing I'm doing is feeding to Z0. So I'm coming down in a straight line from Z3 to Z1 at 100 millimetres a minute. And I'm just scraping the top of the component. You can see that's just scraped the top of the part. And then I'm saying to it, I'm telling it to move X, Y and Z. So it's going to move to minus 18X, minus 18Y, and then it's going to go down in Z to minus 6 at a feed rate of 500 millimetres a minute. But this will be a perfect straight line, just as if I'd dragged a piece of string in that point. So they all arrive in equal measures. Then I'm going to program my X-axis, straight moving X. Now my Y. And my X again, and then I've got an X and a Y move, so it will do a straight line to that point, complete straight line. So it doesn't matter what angle you're machining, it just does it. So you don't have to work out the angle or anything, you're just literally giving it an end point. So you're giving it an end point in X and Y, and it just decides where it's going to go and does a straight line to that point. And now I'm going the opposite way, I'm going back to 0, 0. Sorry, I'm going back to XO, YO and ZO. So again, I'll get a straight line, and you see it's just created that sort of ramp there. So I can move 3 axes together in G1, or just 2, or just 1. And that's G1. So it's moving at a feed rate in a straight line. And we use that basically for machining things. So, but we would never machine using GO. So I've got a GO here, taking it to Z1, taking it to the outside of the part. Let me just take that down a bit so you can see it. And then I'm bringing my cutter down. And now I'm going back into feed. And I'm going to just machine around the outside of this part. So I can just feed my Y-axis. And this is how we end mill a part across there. And these are just straight lines, but they don't have to be orthogonal lines, like 90-degree lines, which you would have to do on a manual machine. But on a CNC machine, a straight line is a straight line. So it can be an angled straight line or an orthogonal, a 90-degree type straight line. And then this is coming along here. Then it's coming off. And I'm using a rapid move. So that's my feed, G1.